Mike D'Angelo with the playlist, Chiwetel. How the heck
Hmm.
are we, man?
I'm good. I'm good. How you doing?
I am great. I thoroughly enjoyed Backrooms. It is so supremely unique to itself, which is rare these days when you get a movie that you go, wow, I've definitely never seen anything like that before. And obviously, you're fantastic as well. So, congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, but before we get into like the existential liminal space horror of the
Sure.
Backrooms, I need to ask about the real nightmare, which is 90s furniture commercials and how that experience is like recreating those and how much that kind of soaks into your soul. How was that?
Yeah. I mean, it was exciting reading it in the script and just thinking, I don't know quite how I'm gonna get into this, to do this, but I feel like it's one of those things that just takes, diving sort of feet first into it and just exploring it in the way that those guys did. When you look at those commercials, there's just no filter. People are just really exploring these characters, in their own
Yeah, man.
unfiltered way, which is great.
Yeah. And of course, I mean, everyone sees that you built a 30,000 square foot set. And obviously the curiosity is there, but just that at the initial photo, just looking at that, which I grew up 15
Mm,
minutes from, I grew up in Wisconsin,
okay.
Oshkosh. I actually lived a couple minutes away at one point when I was in college. So I've been to the place where the Backrooms photo is taken, but it elicits such a feeling of familiarity and nostalgia and eeriness. I'm curious what performing in those day after day does to your brain as an actor. How was it?
Well, I didn't know, I suppose, that it had never been a physical space before, like obviously apart from the original photograph.
Right.
So when I had watched, Kane's videos, I had assumed that somewhere in there, for sure there was like one physical space that had been created. I didn't know that until we walked on, that day, the first day when everything was there and on set, that was the first time. And also because Kane's reaction to it all was like he was buzzing, and I didn't realize until that moment really that this was the first time that it had been created in this way, which I think was great for me, because as well as everybody else, just because in terms of performance of just being able to be in a physical space, to be in a kind of to be sort of lost in that, and to allow the space to do what it does, which is eerie, which
Mhm.
is kind of it is a kind of psychological its own sort of psychological torment. It is you can definitely feel that sort of disconnect with reality and that creeping dread when
Yeah.
you're in there, and that sense that if you were in here endlessly, just what that would mean to your mind. It's not a place that is very forgiving for your psychology. um
Yeah.
so I think it's very perceptive that people from seeing that original photograph just had that real sense of dread.
Kane has been able to do so much with so little up until now. I mean, yes, he's 19 or 20, but obviously he's got such technical skill and care for detail that it's kind of wild what he was able to do on his own. But I'm curious how he is with actors. Does he delve into character emotion? He doesn't really in interviews, but I'm curious what you're talking to him about.
Oh, for sure. I mean, he was very, I think that the balance with Kane, I think because when I was told, that he's 19, I think he was 19 at the time that I first met him on the Zoom,
Yeah.
turned 20. Um, so from the, people when I was sent all the materials, they were like, you should know that he's, 19 years old. And so obviously you have a kind of expectation of what that might mean. Because
Yeah.
we all think of, I certainly end up thinking about myself at 19, and then I'm like, sort of lost on a track of like, I don't know how this is all possible. uh, and then um and then I met Kate on the Zoom, and I guess within maybe 5 minutes, maybe less than 5 minutes, I completely forgot about that. I completely
Yeah.
forgot about his age, because he was so invested in, first of all, his kind of knowledge of this world was so rich, and there were so many kind of questions to ask, and he was so engaging with the answers to those questions, but also his kind of his interest psychologically, his psychological interests in these characters were sort of, to me, way ahead of a kind of what one quote unquote would be a typical 19-year-old sort of musings. And so I ended up just being engaged with wanting to kind of discuss and sort through, Clark's kind of, and pass together really Clark's kind of, just where he was, where he is on the journey. And Clark is, obviously at a completely different stage of his life than somebody like Kane is, but he definitely had a real intuition into what that sort of circular thinking might mean and how it
Yeah.
sort of plays into the psychology of the Backrooms itself.
Yeah, I was reading that you can't really stump him when it comes to the back rooms. And I'm curious what questions you had for him though, that you were coming up to him and just like, was it about Clark personally? Was it about lore?
I think it was not. I didn't really want to kind of find out everything about it, because Clark doesn't know everything about it. But I was interested in knowing that the answers were there. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? And so, and it doesn't take long. I mean, once you've watched all of the series, and once you are kind of, in conversation about it, I suppose, even in general conversation with Kane, it doesn't take very long to know that his knowledge of it is complete, is profound.
Yes.
That it is something that he has dedicated all of his, like literally all of his adult and young adult life to. And it's and it shows. It's obviously occupied, sort of more or less every waking moment. And so I feel like there was the once I felt that the answers are there, that there's a kind of, there's the foundation is there. And so then I think it's for Clark, to start sort of picking at that and to start trying to figure it out with an audience,
Yeah.
with an audience. And in a sense, I was almost like, I loved watching the series, but in a way, when we started shooting, I really wanted to try and just forget everything
Yep.
that I'd ever seen about it, and to go back to when I hadn't encountered any of the,
Because
you know,
that's most of the audience's experience at this point, right?
yeah, I think a lot of people, yeah, are coming into it really, really fresh, and that's incredibly exciting. Knowing how deep it goes and how deep you can fall is exciting.
I do want to quickly touch on some upcoming projects. First, you're doing the new Exorcist film with Scarlett Johansson. Most importantly for me, Mike Flanagan. Friggin' love his work. Shout out to Life of Chuck, of course,
Yeah, yeah,
which you were
sure.
amazing in. But he's just perfect for The Exorcist. So, can I ask, like, what the tone or approach is on that one versus others, and who you play, that kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much to sort of start to really reveal about it, but the we're still shooting. The tone, I guess, does sit in as you can imagine, in the horror genre, and comfortably in the horror genre. I think with Mike's work, there's a real depth and there's a real emotionality to what he brings. There's a real like human and humane quality to the work. I think that people are going to be really engaged with, look, there are going to be parts of it that you're kind of looking at through your fingers.
Oh, yeah.
But I think that there is also going to be a lot of it that feels true, that feels true of the world we live in, and I think that's exciting. I think that what Mike really brings.
Amen. Couldn't be in better hands. I'm a comic book nerd, so I have to touch on Mordo, who
Mm.
feels like he still has a ton of unfinished business. Do you have any sense of whether that door opens again and what you would want for him if they did open that door again?
I mean, I think the door is there,
Mm.
and the door is kind of is. is open in its own way, and so we'll see. I think that it would be, I think, very exciting to kind of to walk into that world, into that character space again, and so we'll just have to see.
Yeah, I've spoken with Benedict and Elizabeth Olsen and Scott Derrickson about the changes that second film underwent and how much. I mean, I guess I'm wondering how much you know about Scott Derrickson's original Multiverse of Madness plans versus Sam Raimi's and how much Mordo changed. I'm always kind of interested in that behind the scenes of it all.
Yeah, I don't know much. I mean, I don't know much about that. I guess I have some sort of, obviously there were sort of conversations around that period of time. I don't know how much any of this is sort of really set, but
Mhm.
I think that it's adaptable, and it's a movable, in a sense, it's a kind of movable feast, and I think that is exciting about that. It is open to change, and so and characters do have that opportunity to um to be reinvented, I think. So we'll
Yeah,
see.
I can't wait. Children of Blood and Bone, Gina
Mm.
Prince Bythewood. Uh, I adored the Woman King. So the idea of her taking on that kind of fantasy meets West African mythology
Uh,
sounds so cool.
it's incredible.
Are you getting ready to do that? Have you done it? Where are we
Yeah,
at with that one?
no, that's done. That's done. We shot that, and it's really, I haven't seen all of it yet, but what I have seen is just has blown me away. I think it's an incredible. I think what Gina's done, and I just think it's going to be a really extraordinary piece. I love her so much as a director, and I think her eye and her creativity and her vision is just, uh, remarkable. So I'm deeply excited to to have people see that actually, and to see it myself.
A freaking men, man. They're giving me the rap. I'll just say Backrooms hits theaters on May 29th. It's everything fans are gonna want. Well done, man. It's really
Thank you,
cool to chat with you.
and you, great to see
All
you.
right. Thanks for the time. I appreciate it.